Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy J-Hawk and welcome to today's episode, Season 2 award show. And we have the playoff preview, man. Hope you guys are excited about that. In today's episode, we'll be going over the award winners, all the teams, first team, second team, third team, and then, the defensive and rookie teams. We'll go over all of that today. So yeah, everybody make sure you guys sit back and relax as we have a fun episode coming up today. And we will start this action off with the rookies. Rookies put on a show this year. Honestly, it was a fun year to see the rookies. Even got custom rookies in for the first time this season. And they are represented here today. But here we go with the finalists for all the awards, and we'll start it off with the Rookie of the Year, of course, because that's how I started it last year. We always started out with the awards with the rookies, but we'll start out with them again this year. And let's start out with the Rookies of the Year finalists, and we'll start out Cade Cunningham from the Idaho Irish. Averaged 19.7 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists, shooting 50% from the floor and 43% from the three-point line, as Idaho in their first year as an expansion team make the playoffs and are the 3 seed. Starting out there with Cade. Next up, we got Rokas Joku Beitas. I'm like no good with names I cannot pronounce, if you guys couldn't tell already. I call him Rokas from the Dallas Stallions. 11.8 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists. He shot 48% from the floor and 35% from the three-point line. Dallas, a #1 seed last year, missing out on the playoffs and will be relocated for year number 3. So, tough year for the Stallions altogether, including the trade of Damian Lillard. But what are we going to do about that? Next up, we got Evan Mobley of the LA Knights. Averaged 12.8 points a game, 6.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He shot 48% from the floor and 26% from the three-point line, as he helped the LA Knights make the playoffs this year with the second best record in the league, as they get the #2 seed in the West. So, congrats, Evan, for being a finalist. Jalen Suggs, also a finalist for the Utah Range. He averaged 12.1 points per game, 3 rebounds, 5.6 assists per game, 45% from the floor, and 31% from the three-point line. Utah missed out on the playoffs after being relocated. So, year 3 should be well with him and Donovan Mitchell. That should be fun to watch in the future. And our last finalist and the last member of the first team all-rookie is Greg Brown III from the Dakota Monuments. He averaged 12.5 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists. He shot 48% from the floor and 35% from the three-point line. Dakota had one of the worst records in the league and are on their way to being relocated after being a relocated team for this season. So, tough luck for them. But those are the finalists for that. And the winner of Rookie of the Year, winning with 80% of the vote, is Cade Cunningham of the Idaho Irish. Great season for Cade. I mean, we expect more out of him from years to come. He averaged 19 points this season alone, so that's up there towards the top 20 in the league in scoring probably. So congrats to Cade for winning it. Evan Mobley did get a vote for first place, so good job for him. But that's the members of the first team rookie, as you see right here: Cade, Rokas, Evan, Jalen, and Greg Brown. The Custom League second team rookies are Zion Admola. I probably mispronounced your name. If I did, I apologize. From the Las Vegas Aces. Great season right there for him. We have Zay Phil, my boy, for the Minneapolis Blizzard, helping them, both of them, getting their teams into the playoffs this year. We got my guy Josh Little for the Nevada Silver Rush. They didn't have that bad of a year, but do miss out on the playoffs this season. But there's always going to be next year for them. We got Clyde Blackheart for the Houston Orbits. Congrats, Clyde. He hooped out well. Him and Joel Embiid should be pretty dominating in the future for Houston. But Houston is one of those teams that do get relocated next season. And our last member of the rookie team is my boy J.D. Hager for the Pittsburgh Union. Hey, him and Pittsburgh got a shot in this first round, I feel. Pittsburgh got to the playoffs last year and got swept out by the eventual champion New York Eclipse. But this year they are a 5 seed. And the 5-4 matchup's always a fun matchup. So we'll see what happens with that. But that is the rookie team members. So now we shall move this on to the defensive team. Alright guys, let's now go over the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. This is the next award. Actually, my bad. We'll go with 6th Man of the Year. 6th Man of the Year finalist. And we'll start it off with Trae Young for the Indianapolis Flames. Yes, Trae Young came off the bench for this team. They started John Wall over him. But he provided big numbers off the bench, if you couldn't tell right here. 18.5 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 6.2 assists. He shot 49% from the field and 43% from the three-point line to help the Indianapolis Flames make the playoffs in their first year as a relocated franchise. But like I said, them and Richmond get misplaced into the West, and then Arizona and I forgot who the other team was, got misplaced out to the East, so I'm going to have to fix that in the offseason, of course. But Trae Young helping Indianapolis get that 5 seed out West. Next up, we got my favorite North Carolina Tar Heel of all time, Justin Jackson for the New York Lions. He averaged 15 points, 3.1 rebounds, 5.1 assists. He shot 39% from the floor and 37% from the three-point line. Next up is a familiar name. We got Rokas from Dallas. The next 2 names are actually familiar. You know their stats already. 11.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 48% from the field, and 35% from the three-point line. The other one you know about already, Evan Mobley of the LA Knights. 12.8 points, 6.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 48% from the floor, and 26% from the three-point line. And our final finalist for 6th Man of the Year is my boy Josh Little from the Nevada Silver Rush. He averaged 11.8 points per game, 1.6 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 43% from the floor, and 34% from the three-point line. And the winner of the 6th Man of the Year, unanimously, I'm not good with words if you couldn't tell, but with 100% of the vote, Trae Young is the winner of the 6th Man of the Year award, which is not surprising. It's only surprising because he came off the bench this year. I definitely did not see him as being one of those to come off the bench for this team. But we're not going to complain about it too much. Congrats to Trae Young for winning 6th Man of the Year. Alright, next up, guys, we will go over the most improved. And if you guys did get a chance to vote, I also put in, like, parentheses how much of a stat change they had from last year. So, let's start it out with Chimezie Metu from the New Orleans Bounce. He originally started the year in Dakota, I believe, and then got traded at the deadline. But he averaged 8.3 points per game. That's up 3 from last year. He had 6.6 rebounds, up 3.6 from last year. And then 1.1 assists went up a little bit. He shot 41% from the field. That went up a whole 1%, and he didn't attempt a single 3. But he's the first finalist. Up next, we got Onyeka Okongwu for the Nevada Silver Rush. He averaged 8 points, a plus 2.7. 8.6 rebounds, plus 4.3 from last year, and 1.3 assists, up 0.5. He also shot 52% from the floor. That's up 4%. And he shot 22% from the three-point line, which is up 22 from last season. So Congrats to Okongwu for being a finalist. Next up, we got Markelle Fultz for the LA Palms. He averaged 15.3 points per game. That's up 6.4 from last year. He had 3.7 rebounds, which is up 1.8. 6 assists went up 1.9. He shot 52% from the floor, which is actually down 2% from last year, and 33% from the three-point line, which is also down 2%. But congrats to Markelle for being a finalist. Our fourth finalist is OG Anunoby for the New York Eclipse, the defending champs. He averaged 9.7 points per game, which is up 4.9 from last year. He had 4 rebounds, which is up 2.3. 1.7 assists, which is up 1.1. He shot 40% from the floor, which is down 7% from last year, and 36% from the three-point line, which is also down 5 from last season. And our final finalist for most improved is Tyrese Halliburton from the Louisville Bobcats. He averaged 9.4 points per game, which is up 3 from last year, 5.3 rebounds, up 2.5. He went up 1.4 to 4.8 assists per game. He shot 41% from the floor, which is up a whole percent, and he shot 37% from the three-point line, which is up 4%. And the winner of this award, receiving 80% of the vote, is Markelle Fultz from the LA Palms. His increase in numbers is what got him this trophy this year. I mean, his field goal percentage dipped a little bit compared to last year, but he deserved it. If I was voting, I probably would have voted either Markelle or Tyrese. I feel like Tyrese, his numbers went up well enough. I mean, Louisville didn't make the playoffs. But, I mean, LA, they made the playoffs. And Markelle was here and is a key reason why they made the playoffs. So, he's really deserving of this award. So, congratulations, Markelle Fultz, on winning Most Improved. Alright, here we go. It's time for the Defensive Player of the Year. Let's talk finalists first before we get into the defensive teams. Starting it out, Giannis Antetokounmpo for the New York Eclipse. He averaged 24.4 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, 4 assists. He had 1.2 steals and 1 block per game to lead the way for the defending champion New York Eclipse to get back to the #1 seed and have the Eastern Conference run through them for the 2nd straight season. So congrats to Giannis. Next up is the defending Defensive Player of the Year, Jonathan Isaac for the Alaska Explorers. He averaged 7.1 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, 1.4 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.3 blocks to help the Alaska Explorers in their first year of expansion make the playoffs as the 8th seed out west. So congrats, Jonathan Isaac and the Explorers. Next up is Anthony Davis for the Idaho Irish. He averaged 17.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists. He had 0.9 steals and 1.6 blocks to help the Idaho Irish in their first year expansion make the playoffs and get the #3 seed out west. So congrats AD and the Irish. Next up is Kawhi Leonard for the Mississippi Mastodons. He averaged 20.9 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.7 steals, and 0.6 blocks per game to help Mississippi in their first year expansion make the playoffs as the 6th seed in the East. So congrats, Kawhi. He does have playoff experience. He helped Louisville last year get the 4 seed, come back from 3-1 down against Steph in Toronto and get to the 2nd round, and he helped give New York problems in that 2nd round. So Kawhi's got the experience right here. So congrats, Kawhi, for being a finalist. And our final finalist will be Ben Simmons for the Cleveland Rebels. He averaged 16.1 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, 6.7 assists. He had 1.7 steals and 0.6 blocks per game to help the Cleveland Rebels make the playoffs as the 7th seed out east. So congrats to Ben Simmons. And this was the tightest race of all the award races. Winning at 40% votes is Giannis Antetokounmpo for the New York Eclipse. He won with 40% of the votes. Then we had 3 others get a vote. for first place. We had Jonathan Isaac, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi Leonard all also receive a first place vote. But at the end of the day, Giannis wins the closest award race that we've had in this series. So congrats to Giannis, and good luck in the playoffs trying to defend his crown. Now let's talk about defensive teams, because you already know about all these players that made the first team. Well, all of them don't make first team. Ben Simmons made first team. Jonathan Isaac and Giannis Antetokounmpo all make the first team, and to join them is Dante DiVincenzo for the Arizona Blaze, and at center we have Joel Embiid. So congrats to them for all making the first team. On the second team, Kawhi and AD missed out on the first teams, but they'll make the second teams, and joining them will be John Wall for the Indianapolis Flames. We got Zion Admola, a rookie, our custom prospect, makes second team. And finishing out the defensive teams is Bam Adebayo for the Cincinnati Gladiators. So congrats to all 10 members of our defensive teams, and good luck to those that did make the playoffs. Hope you guys do have a successful playoff run. And now, it brings us to the main event that you guys have been waiting for. Season 2's MVP finalist. Alright guys, this is the moment you guys have been waiting for all video. It's time for the finalists for the MVP trophy for Season 2. Last year, we had Giannis Antetokounmpo win it. So, it's only fitting that starting it out as a finalist is the reigning MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You heard about his stats earlier in Defensive Player of the Year with all those stats, but he also shot 53% from the field and 28% from the three-point line to again help the New York Eclipse, the defending champions, get back to the top of the East to have the Eastern Conference run through them for the second consecutive season. So congrats to Giannis and company for the 1 seed, and congrats to Giannis for being a finalist for the second straight season. Finalist number 2 from the Indiana Roosters is Nikola Jokic. He averaged 18.4 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, 4.9 assists. He shot 56% from the field and 44% from the three-point line to help the Indiana Roosters make the playoffs this year and get that number 4 seed. So congrats to Jokic. I mean, last year they missed out on the playoffs. So this year he was determined not to miss the playoffs. So congrats Jokic for getting your team to the playoffs and being a finalist for the MVP. Up next we have Zion Williamson for the St. Louis Rivermen. He averaged 21.7 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 65% from the field, and he only took 2 3-point attempts, missed them both, to help lead the defending Western Conference champion St. Louis Rivermen back to the top as the number 1 seed and the best record in the league. So the West will go through them. So congrats Zion and the young core that they have there for making the playoffs as the 1 seed, and congrats Zion for being a finalist. Our 4th finalist from the Cincinnati Gladiators is Bam Adebayo from, and I already said the team, and I'm already trying to say the team again. Nice! But for Bam, he averaged 12 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4.1 assists. He shot 60% from the field and didn't take a single shot attempt to help lead the Gladiators back to the playoffs. Last year they were a 7 seed. This year they get that 3 seed, which is kind of scary considering last year's playoffs. If you guys remember, both 3 seeds went home to the 6 seed. So hopefully we won't have a repeat of that. But congrats Bam for helping get the squad to the playoffs again and being a finalist for the MVP. Our last finalist comes from the Richmond Generals, and it is LeBron James. He averaged 18.2 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists. He shot 52% from the floor and 32% from the three-point line. As for the second consecutive season, the Custom League playoffs will be without LeBron James as Richmond missed out. And the standings, if you haven't seen, they're still down below. But LeBron and Richmond would have been a playoff team if they were in the East. So we're definitely going to make sure that we get the teams back in their correct conferences for Season 3. So there are your finalists. And the winner of MVP winning with 80% of the vote. As I get a tickle in my throat. For the second consecutive season is Giannis Antetokounmpo for the New York Eclipse. Our first two-time winner of the award. Congrats, Giannis. We're hoping to see him do a lot of good things in the playoffs. Hopefully lead his team to back-to-back championships. But congrats, Giannis, for winning the MVP for the second consecutive season. And that brings us now to our custom league teams. And we'll start out with the first team. As you know, LeBron, Giannis, and Jokic are all going to be there. And joining them will be Damian Lillard from the Atlanta Crows. You know he was traded mid-season from Dallas to Atlanta. So he's in a backcourt now with him and Klay Thompson. That should be scary for the future, especially if they keep it together. So I expect Atlanta to do big things next season with them too. So we got Dame, and then we got Luka Doncic. He wasn't a finalist this year for MVP, but congrats to him for making the first team. For the second team, you already know Zion's going to be there and Bam's going to be there, but joining them, we have Kyrie Irving from the Las Vegas Dealers. So congrats, Kyrie. You know, Kyrie's probably still a little mad about last year. He got hurt in the conference finals in game 1, and I thought Las Vegas had a big time shot if he didn't get hurt to advance to the finals, but with his injury that kind of sucked, but you can't blame the injury on it. But I think Kyrie's going to come out angry in the playoffs. Be prepared. I'm just saying, watch out for Las Vegas this year. Also joining the second team is Devin Booker from the Portland Pioneers. Devin hooped out even though Portland had one of the worst records in the league and will be relocated. But D-Book put on the show. Hopefully we can get Portland back in the playoffs next year, but they're being relocated, so they'll be under a new name. But congrats, D-Book. He got his current NBA teammate, Chris Paul, on the team with him. I thought that was going to help out, but it didn't help out much at all, honestly. And our final member of the second team will be Brandon Ingram from the Louisville Bobcats. B.I. had to step up in place of Kawhi leaving, and he put on a show this year. One of the top scorers in the league. Sucks we couldn't get him into the playoffs, but B.I. put on a show this year, so congrats to everybody that made the second team. Third team, we'll start it out with Ja Morant for the Dakota Monuments. Even though Dakota was one of the worst teams in the league, Ja still put on the show. I mean, he hooped out this year, and we expect more in the future with him. And then we got custom prospect Jaden Barr also down there. I mean, they got a young team in Dakota now. But, of course, they're being relocated, so we'll see what happens with them next year. Got James Harden from the D.C. Senators. D.C., a 2-seed last year and then missing out on the playoffs this year. James, he still hooped out, but he knows that he needs to get back to making the playoffs because he was so close to making the finals last year, getting to the conference finals, and now this year he's sitting at home watching everybody in the playoffs. So probably add fuel to the fire. I bet he'll hoop out next year. We got Kawhi Leonard on the third team. As you know, Kawhi left Louisville to sign with Mississippi. Technically, I fixed that. But Kawhi did his thing, helping the expansion team make the playoffs in their first season, and they got that 6th seed, so look out. Like I said, last year the 6 seeds both advanced out the first round. Let's see if they all happen for the second consecutive season. We got Jason Tatum also on the third team from the LA Palms, and he did his thing. He hooped out again. LA didn't. They were a 3 seed last year, and they got sent home. And Jason's on a mission not to be sent home early this year, as they had the 4 seed this year, so they're ready for a good series. That 4-5 series is always fun to watch. So, congrats, Jason. And the final member of the third team is Joel Embiid for the Houston Orbits. Houston missing out on the playoffs, but Embiid still hooped out. I mean, he was in trade talks at the deadline, but you guys voted to keep him there, so we'll see what happens in the future with him. But congrats to every member of the all custom league teams, you know, the defensive teams, rookie teams, all the finalists for awards. Congrats to everybody. So that's going to end this video. Hope you guys did enjoy this. Next video, we will get into round 1 of our custom league playoffs for season 2. Hope you guys are excited. Make sure you guys comment below who you guys are picking to win each series. Oh, I'm ending the video before going over the playoff preview. Whoops! Okay, well, still, comment below who you guys think is going to win the finals. But let's go ahead and get into this preview. Welcome to the playoff preview for season 2. We have 16 teams that are determined to win the championship. That's everybody's goal at the beginning of the season, is to be the champion of the league. And we got 16 teams that are ready to do battle. So let's get into this playoff preview. We'll start out in the East because it's appropriate to start out with the defending champions, the #1 seed, the New York Eclipse. And they will be taking on the 8th seed. Welcome to the Eastern Conference for 1 year, the Arizona Blaze. Let's go over this as they pop up right now. We got the Eclipse, led by Giannis. He averaged 24.6 points per game this season, helping the Eclipse to a 46-24 record. Definitely a downfall from last year's record, but still good enough to get that 1 seed. They averaged 87.3 points per game and 81.3 points allowed per game during the regular season. And they'll be taking on this Arizona club that's led by Jabari Parker. Jabari Parker led this team in scoring with 13.1 points per game this season. And they actually got outscored, if you don't see the stats right here. 81.5 points per game. And they allowed 83.5 a game, getting to a 35-35 record. Arizona did make the playoffs last year in the West. I think they were a 2 seed. Yeah, they were 2 seed. They got sent home in round 2 against St. Louis. But for New York, they're the defending champs. They eased by the first round last year against Pittsburgh. They swept them. Then they played Louisville. That series went 7. Yeah, that was 7. That was 7. And then they played DC in the conference finals. I think that went 6. And I know they beat St. Louis in the finals in 6. But Giannis and company, you know, Giannis coming off his MVP for the 2nd straight year. And he's looking to repeat as a champion and finals MVP this year. Going through their regular season numbers, New York swept the season series, winning both games. New York swept the season series 2-0. They won at home on April 13th, 117-65, and then won April 17th in Arizona, 94-78. For this series, I don't know how to feel for Arizona. Mistakenly got put in the East, but they made the playoffs. But now they're going to have to go up against the defending champs. I could see Arizona maybe getting a game. Maybe. I don't think New York's going to sweep them. I think, like, Gordon Hayward's probably going to have, like, 1 big game for Arizona. So I do see New York getting by in 5. I'll do New York in 5. I don't know. I just feel like Arizona's going to have enough to get 1 game. I don't think it's going to be a game in New York. I think they're going to have to win 1 on their home court, probably like game 3 or game 4, either one. But yeah, I'll take New York in 5. Alright, staying in the East now, we'll go over the 2-7 matchup, which is the 2-seeded Toronto Dragons, led by Steph Curry's 18.9 points per game in the regular season. He will lead the Dragons against the Cleveland Rebels, who were led by Jimmy Butler's 17.1 points per game this regular season. This should be a good matchup. Toronto, like I said, 40-30, got the 2 seed. Last year in the playoffs, they got the 4 seed, got up 3-1 against Kawhi and the Bobcats, and then choked the 3-1 lead. But Toronto, 87.6 points per game in the regular season. They allowed 85.7 a game. to their opponents, with Steph averaging 18.9 to lead the way. For Cleveland, they averaged 87.3 points and allowed 85.1. So this should be a fun series. In the regular season, they split their season matchups. Cleveland won on their home court back in March on the 14th by a score of 86-72, and Toronto won in their home court April 23rd by a score of 77-72. So two pretty close games, honestly. And with this series, I mean, we know the history of Toronto last year getting to a 3-1 series lead and then choking it away. I think this is going to be an interesting series. I do think that Toronto has more than Cleveland does in this series. But I do see Cleveland giving Toronto problems in this series. I'll probably go Toronto in 6. I'll give Cleveland 2 games in this series. I don't want to say that this is a 7-game series. It could go 7 for all I know, but I feel like Toronto's going to get challenged by Cleveland a little bit. So, yeah, I'll be confident about that. I'm going to take the Toronto Dragons to win this series in 6 games. I think Steph and company is just going to be too much for Jimmy. I think Jimmy's going to have to ball his ass off just to get Cleveland to round 2, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. I'm not going to sleep on Jimmy Butler, but I'll take Toronto in 6. Let me know below what you guys think. Alright, next up out east, we do the 3-6 matchup, which is the Cincinnati Gladiators taking on the Mississippi Mastodons. And looking at both teams, Cincinnati finished with a record of 39-31, averaging 88.7 points per game. They gave up 87.2 a game, and they were led by D'Angelo Russell's 22.5 points per game. And they get the 3 seed, a game behind Toronto, and they get the tiebreaker over Indiana. And their matchup will be the 6th seed, the Mississippi Mastodons, in their first year of expansion. They averaged 88.3 points, 86.9 that they allowed per game, in going 36-34 in the regular season, led by Kawhi Leonard's 20.9 points per game. So the Mastodons, the 6th seed, against the 3-seeded Cincinnati Rebels. And looking at the regular season, they both won a game against each other on home courts. Cincinnati won the first matchup New Year's Day by a score of 99-69, while Mississippi won March 14th at home 124-91. No, that game did not get to overtime. That was just how much they scored that game. So 2 blowout games. This is going to be an interesting series to me. And going over the rosters, I mean, D'Lo, Cincinnati, they got a squad. They got a good squad. I think they'll end up keeping up, of course, with Mississippi. Kawhi is going to put the team on his back like he did last year. And I'm going with my lessons from last year. The 6th seed winning both matchups in the first round last year. And I am going to take the 6th seed. I will let you know. I am taking Mississippi to win this series over Cincinnati. I think this is going to be a fun series. I think it's going to be very back and forth. I think someone's going to win, someone's going to win, someone's going to win. It's going to be like this. It's going to be back and forth, I think. I will take Mississippi to win this series in 7 games. I feel like Kawhi is just going to hoop out. I feel like we're going to have other players other than, like, you know, Kawhi and D'Lo. I feel like we're going to have, like, some sort of player come out of nowhere and just, like, have a big game where they drop, like, 30 or 20. And you're just like, oh, he did that? Wasn't expecting that. Like, I feel like that's something we're going to expect in this series. Someone out of nowhere is just going to hoop out to help win a game. So I will take the Mississippi Mastodons in 7 games over the Cincinnati Gladiators. I learned my mistake from picking against the 6th seed last year. I'm picking the 6th seed this year. Just going to let you know that. So Kawhi and Mississippi in 7 over Cincinnati. Alright. So that now brings us to our final series in the East, which will match up the 4-seeded Indiana Roosters, 39-31 in the regular season, They averaged 87.8 points per game and allowed 86.8, while Jokic led the way with 18.4 points per game. And they'll take on the Pittsburgh Union with a 37-33 record. They gave up more points than they scored this year. They averaged 86.1 points per game and gave up 86.5 per game, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 17.8 points per game in the regular season. And this series, the season series, was swept by Pittsburgh, actually. They swept this series 2-0. They played a back-to-back nights. Pittsburgh won on February 10th in Indiana by a score of 80-74, and then the next night at home on the 11th, they won 79-51 in that one. This is going to be an interesting series. Indiana's freshly into the playoffs for the first time. Pittsburgh got their taste of the playoffs last year. I mean, they ran into the defending champs in round 1, which wasn't going to be easy, of course. But, you know, after that first game they played last year against New York, they got blown out. I mean, they lost by like 30. It was like a bad beatdown. I was just like, dang, Pittsburgh really going to get their ass slapped. Like, they gonna just lay down and take this beating and just not try. But the next 3 games, they literally were all close games. They got New York to overtime one game. Like, you know how hard that was just to play New York close last year? They only lost like 15 games in the regular season last year. And then, like, Pittsburgh played them close. I'll give Pittsburgh their credit last year. But Pittsburgh has the playoff experience. Indiana doesn't. You see where I'm going with this. I'm going to be taking the Pittsburgh Union to win this series. I will be taking Pittsburgh to win this series. How many games? I'm thinking it'll go 2-2. 2-2-2. I think Indiana will win the first 2 at home. Pittsburgh will win the next 2 at their home court. And then they'll go back to Indiana, take 1, and then come home and finish it out. That's how I think it's going to go. I think Pittsburgh is going to lose the first 2 games and win 4 straight. I don't know why I feel that. I just feel like it's going to happen. They're going to win 4 straight in this series after losing the first 2 games. That's what I'm thinking. So, with that, my playoff predictions are New York versus Pittsburgh in round 2. And then Toronto taking on Mississippi. We'll see how well I did when we get to previewing round 2 after the first round ends. Hopefully I do good this year. I know I did bad last year. No, I did bad. But that wraps up the Eastern Conference. Now, let's take our talents to the Western Conference. Alright guys, now it's time to start talking about the Western Conference. And we will start it out with the number 1 seed, the defending Western Conference champion, St. Louis Rivermen. With their 52-18 regular season record, they averaged 89.2 points per game, 80.8 points allowed per game. And Zion led the way with 21.5 points per game for them. And they'll be taking on the expansion team, the Alaska Explorers. My bad. Who finished with a 40-30 record. They went 88.2 points per game, 85.2 points allowed per game, and were led by Jamal Murray's 15.7 points per game. In the regular season matchups that they had with each other, St. Louis swept the season series, winning both matchups they played in May, so late matchups. St. Louis won in Alaska May 15th, 88-75, and then won at their home court on the 27th of May, 95-79. So, 2 pretty convincing victories for St. Louis in that one. I think their young roster, the way that they went through the playoffs last year, they're ready for it. I think they are excited and ready to run it back and get back to the finals. I think St. Louis will win this series. I think Alaska's little roster, they got Jamal Murray, DeAndre Ayton's there. I feel like they'll compete. I'll give them 2 games, so I'm going to say St. Louis in 6. I'll say St. Louis in 6. I think Alaska's going to be able to get two games in this series. So I'll take St. Louis in 6 in this one. Alright, next up, out west, we have the 2-7 matchup, and it's the LA Knights. Missed out on the playoffs last year. This year, second best record in the league, 50-20. They averaged 90 points in the regular season, only allowed 84.2. with Porzingis leading the way with 14.7 points per game. And they'll take on the 7 seed Minneapolis Blizzard. They're freshly new into the playoffs. They average 88.5 points a game, 86.1 allowed per game, while winning 41 of their 70 games, with rookie Zay Phil leading the way with 15.2 points per game. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I think Minnesota could get a couple games in this series. Just think LA is a really good team. I mean, they got Porzingis, they got DeRozan. Like, they got a good amount of players on this team that they're capable of making a run, I think. I think they're going to be challenged by Minneapolis in this series. But in the end, I think LA is going to get by. So I'm going to take the LA Knights in 6 over Minneapolis. But don't be surprised if Minneapolis tries to make this a 7-game series. So LA Knights in 6. Oh yeah, forgot to mention the regular season series. LA swept the series 2-0. They won January 13th at home 89-78 and won at Minnesota May 3rd by a score of 102-94. So 2 pretty good close games that LA won. So yeah, that doesn't change my decision though. I'm still got the LA Knights in 6. I just forgot to mention that, so I had to come back and say that real quick. Alright, moving on. Alright, we have the fun 3-6 matchup. You already know where this is leading though. The Idaho Irish, in their first year as an expansion team, 45-25. They average 90 points a game, 85.4 allowed a game. And Cade Cunningham led the way with 19.7 points per game on his way to Rookie of the Year. They'll be taking on the 6th seed of the Las Vegas Dealers, who went 42-28. They averaged 89 points a game, only gave up 86, and were led by Kyrie's 20.5 points per game. And this is what we call the fun 3-6 matchup. The regular season series was split 1-1. Las Vegas and Idaho both winning on each other's home courts. Las Vegas won at Idaho on March 7th, 81-77. And Idaho won on Las Vegas' home court on March 22nd by a score of 87-81. So 2 close games in the regular season. Hopefully this will transpire to the playoffs. And like I said, it's the 6-3 matchup, 3-6 matchup. And you know where this is going. Kyrie is pissed off about getting hurt last year in the conference finals. Because if he wouldn't have got hurt, I feel like they probably would have made the finals. Kyrie is about to use all that anger and lead Las Vegas to another playoff run. So I will be taking Las Vegas to win this series in 6 games. I do think that Idaho and Las Vegas will be playing a pretty close series. But at the end of the day, Las Vegas is going to win this series. Kyrie's on a mission. He's not being denied 2 straight years. Now, if he gets hurt, I don't know. It's going to be rough. But Kyrie will lead this team past the first round. I guarantee that. 6-game series. Las Vegas in 6. And now that brings us to our final first round playoff matchup, featuring the 4th seed of the Los Angeles Palms. They went 45-25, averaged 87.8 points per game, allowed 82 a game, and Jason Tatum led the way at 22.7 points per game. And they'll take on the new expansion team, the Indianapolis Flames, who are supposed to be out east. Of course, we'll fix that for next season. But Indianapolis, 44-26, they averaged 91.6 points per game, 84.6 allowed per game, and were led by Trae Young's 18.3 points per game in this one. In the regular season, they split the season series 1-1. Both teams winning on each other's home courts. Indianapolis won January 12th in LA by a score of 91-90, while LA won in Indianapolis February 10th by a score of 74-66. 2 close regular season games that I feel like will just feed off into the playoffs too. I feel like this can be a really competitive series. Trae Young coming off the bench is crazy for Indianapolis, but he hooped. Jason Tatum trying to establish himself as one of the young stars in this game. I'm going to take the Palms in this one. I do feel a close 7-game series coming. I think they're going to just keep splitting each other up. I mean, one win. Like, for real, I think it's going to be just like that. But I do feel that the LA Palms have more and we'll get past this series. So that would mean my playoff predictions for the West have St. Louis taking on the LA Palms in the second round, while the LA Knights take on the Las Vegas Dealers. So make sure you guys comment below your playoff predictions, because I love hearing from you guys and seeing what you guys think. We'll see how I do, like I said, because last year I didn't really pick many series correct. We'll see what happens this season, though. But that will bring an end to this episode. Hope you guys did enjoy the award show and the playoff preview. As always, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. Turn on post notifications. If you guys are new, make sure you guys check the description for the link to create your custom prospects. Still not too late. You still got until the end of this playoff run to create a prospect. I want a bunch of you guys. I think we got a good, like, 14, 15 prospects so far. That's definitely up. That's double the number we had last year, so we just want to keep continuing that. Make sure you guys create your prospect. If you created one for season 1, well, for season 2, and don't think you can make one for season 3, that, you know, you can create another prospect if you want. I'm not going to complain about it. I want you guys involved in the series, like always. But I do appreciate you guys for the support, man. And, yeah, that's going to wrap things up. Hope you guys are excited about the playoffs. Round 1 will be coming out in the very next video, so I hope you guys are excited. And with that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one.
It takes time. I'm just trying to be